Welcome back to the Build Bodies podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to go over what to do if you're starting out as a beginner in the gym. Now, this is going to be part of a little bit of a series that I'm building per the request of a viewer. They wanted to know exactly what to do if you're a beginner, intermediate, and advanced athlete going into the gym. And I can talk about intermediate and beginner athletes all day long. Advanced is pretty straightforward, and it's a lot easier said than when you get to that point. But in this specific little series here, I want to make sure that I cover everything that you should be focused on to make sure that you get to that intermediate level, okay? And so we're going to break this down into 5 things that you should be doing if you're a beginner athlete. And beginner being defined as someone who's just getting started in the gym and you're below 3 years of regularly lifting in the gym. Now, the first one is going to be one of the most important, and that is form and technique. And I'm not just going to say, form and technique and not go into really a good detail, but I want to use some specific examples that are going to help excel your results much faster. So slow is fast when it comes to weightlifting and when it comes to getting into a solid routine. And the reason I say that is because if you worry about the basics and you're paranoid about getting everything right, it is much easier for you to make pain-free progress as you age in your fitness journey. And one of the biggest things when it comes to form and technique is execution of the movements as well as tempo and momentum. Okay, so what do I mean by tempo and momentum? So how fast you're lowering the weight as well as how fast you're changing from the eccentric portion of the movement, the lowering phase, to the shortening phase of the movement, the concentric portion of the movement. So if we're looking at bicep curls, the speed change between lowering and increase and bringing the weight back up. That is a very important part, and I can't tell you how many times that I've personally gotten injured by overlooking that detail. A lot of my injuries have come from not controlling weight and going too heavy, and we'll get into that one as we focus on the other points over time, but we want to focus on form and technique because that's ultimately going to be allowing us to build a really solid foundation. So when it comes to form and technique, you want to make sure that you're lowering the weight slowly, you're controlling the weight, not letting it control you, and make sure that you're prioritizing a lot of movements that you personally feel comfortable with, and you're building that technique and form over time. Eventually, you're going to want to try new movements, and that's totally fine, but I would start with movements that you feel comfortable with first and then build up from there. The second one is going to be consistency. Now, I have a little bit of a different approach when it comes to consistency. You don't need to be in the gym 6 days a week, 5 days a week, or whatever. Out of the 11 years that I've been lifting, I can't tell you how many times I've driven to the gym and driven home because I didn't feel like going. And the reason why I've been able to stay consistent is because I've let myself have those days. But one rule that I usually like to stick to is that if I don't show up to the gym one day, I don't make it a habit by doing that on day 2. So if you do skip the gym one day, make sure that when you go back on that day 2 and you do not skip that session, okay? And consistency, in my personal opinion, is less about willpower, and it's more about your environment and how many obstacles you have that keep you from going to the gym. I'll give you an example. If you try and set up your gym sessions at the end of the day, when you're the most stressed out, when you have multiple errands to run, when you have a lot more responsibilities to handle, maybe you get home from work and you have to take care of the kids or have private time with your significant other. These are things that can present to they're just obstacles that can basically delay the time it takes from you to get to the gym. And the more time that you have to think about it and really rely on your willpower, the less likely you are to show up for yourself at the gym. So for a lot of people, it makes sense to do morning workouts. And the reason why is because when you wake up, there's not too many obstacles or things that you have in front of you that prevent you from going to the gym. And it's a lot easier for you to just get up, put your shoes on and go. and don't think about it. And I refer a lot on this podcast about James Clear's Atomic Habits book. It is a game changer for anyone looking to build really long-lasting habits. And he talks about this in his book, and he uses an example of a woman in New York where basically every single morning she woke up, put her shoes on, put her outfit on, and then walked out and hailed a cab. And as long as she got out the door and hailed the cab, she stayed consistent with her gym routine. It wasn't the fact that she was consistent with her gym routine. It was the fact that she was consistent at the first 5 to 10 minutes of her day to set herself up from going to the gym. And once she was already in the car, she already made that decision that she was going to stay in the car and go to the gym. So it's not the habit of going to the gym. It's the habit of getting yourself to leave the house and go to the gym, okay? Not actually working out. Because once you get there, it's a lot easier for you to just, stay there and do the workout. But showing up for yourself is what your body cares about the most. And the fact that you're someone who doesn't quit and you're someone who shows up for yourself consistently is something that I think matters more than like going to the gym and like forcing yourself to do strenuous workouts, okay? You have to cast votes for yourself to really feel like you're that type of person that doesn't skip workouts. And then from there, that the rest is history. You'll take the consistency will take care of itself. Number 3 is going to be progressive overload. This refers to increasing weight, sets, reps, and overall volume over time. Now, if you're new to the gym, you might have never heard this term. But it's a very important term to consider because just to put it into perspective for you, if you go to the gym for a year and you don't lift any heavier, you don't add any reps, you don't have any weight, you don't add time under tension, you don't add any progressive overload, you will not grow muscle. Muscle requires you to push yourself, and it requires overloading of volume, and it requires you to reach new stimulus. It requires you to train hard in order to break down new muscle tissue and rebuild it. So you can't get the most bang for your buck, and you cannot get the most out of your sessions if you're not prioritizing progressive overload. And that's one of the things that's often overlooked. I see a lot of men doing a lot of cardio classes that involve things like Orange Theory, things like F45, things that involve like high intensity weight training. And the reason why it's very hard to progressively overload those things is because the rest times are very short, form is super sloppy, and you eventually run out of weight that you can do efficiently. So if you're not able to reach progressive overload through those types of training modalities, that's usually what causes a lot of men to be stuck in their ability to put on muscle and drop body fat. You need to make sure that you're in an environment where you can actually add weight, add sets, add reps, as well as add time under tension and have proper recovery time to make sure that you do them correctly. Number 4 is going to be a balanced workout routine. So the reason I want to mention this is because a lot of times we have this all or nothing mindset, right? And it's either all or nothing in cardio only, all or nothing in trying a specific diet and eliminating carbohydrates or doing keto or something like that, right? And I think having a well-balanced fitness routine makes it much easier for beginners to make a lot of progress in the gym. And the reason I say that is because let's say that you go balls to the walls to the gym and you just go 6 days a week, you're eating everything in sight, and your life space just basically revolves around fitness, okay? I think it's much better for you to be well-rounded and at least have some movement and activity or type of cardio involved in your routine that will allow you to just feel better in the gym. Because that way, when you're a little bit more well-rounded, you're able to function better as an athlete. And as you improve your cardiovascular health, you'll be able to execute your weight training just much more efficiently. And again, this is a balanced approach, okay? So when we're looking at this, there's a very popular analogy out there where we compare your training and nutrition to a cake, okay? So basically, if we're looking at the inside of the cake, the base, we're looking at weight training, okay? Now, if we're looking at anything supplemental, we're comparing that to the icing around the cake. And that would be your additional cardio, your steps, things that you're doing to just get a little bit more activity in. And the sprinkles on the top of the cake can be referred to as your mobility routines, your stretching routines, things that you're doing for injury prevention. These are things that you can kind of like, if you look at it in this way, it's much easier for you to make part of your routine. Okay. And there's definitely a lot of splits to follow as well. We're not going to get into splits on this specific one, but when it comes to a balanced workout routine and making sure that you're giving each individual body part attention, right now, like the research is basically saying that 10 to 15 hard sets per week is enough for you to grow each body part. So I would definitely err on the side of caution of doing more less than actually doing more volume. A lot of people do like 5 sets for every exercise. It's not necessary. Even me being 11 years in, I'm still doing three sets for an exercise, 4 sets for an exercise, sometimes 2 sets for an exercise. It is very individual, and you should not try and put yourself in this unrealistic box early on into your fitness journey. It's a lot easier to start lower, and I would start with no more than 2 to 3 sets per exercise. And you could even just make sure that you're doing a bare minimum 10 sets per week for each body part. Number 5 is going to be rest and recovery. And I think that I wanted to save this one for last, just simply because it's one that I see most people struggle with. And when they struggle with it, it's usually because a lot of other distractions that are in place. Okay. Now there's 2 sides of this. I do want to talk about sleep in particular, but I also do want to get into other areas that affect your recovery, like malnutrition. Okay. So first we'll get into sleep. Now, sleep plays a crucial role in your testosterone as well as your ability to just recover, okay? So if you're doing very hard workouts and you're totally skimping out on sleep, here's what that means for you. You are willingly acknowledging the fact that you are going to be cutting your results by 50 to 60%. And the reason I say that is because there's a study that compares 8.5 hours of sleep and 5.5 hours of sleep in subjects. And they found that people that slept at least 8.5 hours of sleep a night were able to lose 55% more fat and retain 60% more muscle while they were in a fat loss phase. So a lot of people who want this toned, ripped body, they're skipping out on sleep, and they don't realize that that's one of the most important variables that we can control for. Okay. Now, I'm not perfect with my sleep. Sometimes it's 6 hours of sleep a night that I can get. And other times it's 7 to 8 to sometimes 9. It changes for me too. But 9 times out of 10, I'm getting above 7 hours, and that's really the mark that you do not want to undershoot. We want to make sure that we're having at least enough sleep to make sure that we are recovering properly, and that's going to also play a role into our cravings, our hunger, satiety, our energy levels throughout the day, so it's not something that you want to skimp out on. Now let's talk about the nutrition side of things. Some people work out super hard, some people sleep super hard, but they undereat on nutrition. Now, if you're in a fat loss phase, this is going to be known as a calorie deficit. And over a period of time, you're going to start to notice some downregulating and some side effects, if you will, coming from that calorie deficit. You're going to start to get hungrier. Your energy is going to start to dip. You're not going to be able to lift as heavy as you once did. That's all normal. So that might be the time to pull the plug on the fat loss phase and start rebuilding your metabolism back up to a spot that's sustainable for you. Okay. But a lot of men out there don't have a good idea of how much protein they need, and they're undereating on their protein. So despite working out, training hard, etc., they are not able to really recover from all of that training that they're doing. So if you're a beginner in the gym right now, one of the most important variables is rest and recovery. So as long as you have your sleep and your protein consumption intact and you're not undereating too much, you will be able to build muscle and see a lot of progress. And the main reason that I wanted to see this video is because a lot of people start their fitness journey every single year, and a lot of people fail. And it's often because they're not in it for the right reasons, and they also don't have the correct expectations, okay? Going into the gym and just doing random things isn't enough for you to change your body. yes, it's great for you to just start that habit of going to the gym. And I will always respect anyone who just like gets off the couch and goes to do exercise. Okay. And that's definitely a positive thing. But if you really want to make sure that you're not wasting time in the gym, these 5 principles that I just covered will not only save you a lot of time, but they will get you better results than 99% of people out there, because they are skipping all of these different things. If you do need help with getting to your goal physique, you're looking to drop belly fat, your lower back fat, and you're looking for accountability, a step-by-step plan to execute on, and a science-based plan that you can trust, then I want you to apply to our coaching program. Right now, we have a couple spots available for the month of October and going into November. Our roster spots are almost capped, and once we do reach that cap, we don't take any more clients because it dilutes our ability to deliver a good service for the clients we already have. So that's why right now is the best time before the year ends to sign up for one-on-one coaching. So if you are interested in coaching, what you can do is click the link down below this video. If you're watching on Spotify, Apple Music, or YouTube, it should be in the show notes or description below, and just click to apply for the coaching program. And then you and I will hop on a phone call to see if we are a good fit to work with each other. Not everyone's made for the program. There is some requirements that need to be met in terms of moving forward with the coaching program, and that's what that call will basically go over. So if you have any further questions about that, or you want to see more episodes on the podcast, please comment that down below, and I'll see you on the next episode.